Arizona Attorney General Kris Mayes is seeking an immediate takeover of Heritage Village, an assisted living community in Mesa. The new lawsuit alleges that its owners endangered vulnerable adults and committed consumer fraud, claims that were initially reported by the Arizona Republic. Republic investigative data reporter Caitlin McGlade played a big role in uncovering that story. She joins us now, a very big role. Congratulations on this kind of research. This is a big story, and things are happening now because of the story. Talk about what the AG wants to do.
Thank you. So Kris Mayes wants to essentially strip the owners of Heritage Village of their ownership. If the lawsuit goes in her favor, ultimately, the Madison Realty Company would have to sell Heritage Village and its other properties. It owns two other facilities. There's one in Apache Junction and one in Mesa called Visions.
Okay, so and my impression, there are 20 defendants here. There's owners and managers, and there's the court-appointed receivership aspect of all this. Describe that. Give me a better definition of what that's all about.
Sure. Kris Mayes is seeking to have an immediate court-appointed receivership. So the court would have somebody with healthcare experience who is experienced in turning things around, go in there and basically clean house. So the current management would be out. Even before the lawsuit's over. The receiver would also decide whether or not the existing caregivers could stay or go based on their criteria.
And some think, and probably get rid of the license as well. But licensing is kind of interesting. The Attorney General does not necessarily want this facility to lose its license, true?
Correct. So that could potentially create a lot of instability for the residents. So when a person has dementia, every move is very traumatizing. And what she wants to do is keep these residents in their homes that they've lived in for a lot of them years and just give them quality care.
Is that the reason why the health department hasn't pulled the license so far? I mean, some of these things seem pretty serious business. Is that why something hasn't been done as far as licensing so far?
I'm not sure. The state did attempt to pull the license earlier this year, but I think Kris Mayes is stepping in to just be like, let's try to give quality care to the people who live there now, rather than having them completely displaced.
And the receivership does allow the residents to remain.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The investigation, this Heritage Village place, more citations than any assisted living facility in Arizona. Give us a 30,000-foot view of this whole thing.
Resident on resident injuries, deaths. Our research started because we found an incident where a resident pulled her roommate out of bed and it killed her. And there was very little repercussions for that. After that happened, after this woman was killed, there were something around 150 citations over 3 years at this facility. Medication errors, like doubling people's medicine, leaving the doors open to cleaning rooms that have toxic agents in them for people who have dementia and wander around, untrained caregivers, things of that nature.
And the people that were the victims, I guess we got to call them victims, mostly with dementia?
I don't know how many had dementia, but they do market memory care services at Heritage Village.
Yeah. So the Attorney General takes this action. Why did she take the action? It sounds like things weren't moving fast enough with Heritage Village. True?
True. Even after our story ran that reported that there were 150 citations over 3 years. And even after that created a big splash and Katie Hobbs came out and said, we need to have an investigation. Even after the current management there told me that they were cleaning it up and hiring, new people and really turning things around. Even after all of that, the state found somewhere around 50 more citations that were bad. Some people weren't given their medicine for a very long period of time. Some people had their medicines doubled. They left the place exposed for people to be able to just walk out if they felt like it. There was some doors that weren't locked and closed, things of that nature.
Were the facility managers, the owners, were they incapable or unwilling to fix things, or can you tell yet?
I don't know.
Yeah, and that takes a little bit of opinion in there, but the bottom line is they didn't get it done.
They did not. They also, in addition to that, Chris Mays found in her investigation that the facility was taking in and retaining residents that are bound to their beds, so they can't walk without even helping. And actually, there is a state law that says that if you are not capable of walking on your own or even with help as an assisted living facility, if you're going to take a resident like that, you have to have a note from their doctor saying that it's okay for them to live there, because otherwise the facility doesn't have the means to take care of them. So Chris Mays found that there were a bunch of residents that were living there that couldn't walk even with help, and there wasn't the proper documentation saying that their doctors signed off on it.
Speaking of documentation, it sounds like there might have been cover-ups involving documentation here?
Right. Chris Mays found that that when she asked for documents, she was getting documents back that were dated after the time in which she asked for them.
So she wasn't getting what she was asking for.
She was getting documents that seemed to be produced after she asked for them.
Yeah, and I think as well I read about maybe bogus positive reviews on a website, something along that.
Yes, with people who were related to the business.
Yeah, so that doesn't sound very good. All right, so we got the legislation there. They want to get receivership. They want to get something going here. What kind of legislation is bouncing around out there is addressing this issue?
Right. So yeah, Chris Mays's action affects Heritage Village, but the lawmakers are trying to work on a bill that would affect all of assisted living. So Tim Dunn sponsored a bill that soared through the House with flying colors. It went through the Senate Health and Human Services Committee recently. Essentially, what it would do if it gets approved by the Senate is it would create ADHS would have to create standards for memory care, because right now it's a marketing term. Direct care workers, so people who are working with people who have the most needs, they would have to have dementia training, because right now it's very lacking in that. Also, facilities would not be allowed to hire or retain people who are on the APS's abuse registry, which right now there's no rule saying they can't hire those people. And also the fines would increase for problems. So like right now, the cap is $500 per day. If there is a problem, like somebody's medication gets doubled. This bill would allow DHS to levy fines up to $1,000 per day per resident affected.
Interesting. This is Tim Dunn, a human Republican. Wasn't there another bill previous to this? What happened to that one?
There was. So that bill would have allowed residents to have cameras in their rooms if they signed off on them or their family signed off on them, as long as the roommate also signed off on them. It also would have required facilities to report resident-on-resident harm to the state health department, because right now they don't have to report that. So that bill would have required that kind of reporting, but and it soared through the House. It got a lot of support, but TJ Shope did not put it on his agenda in his committee, so it died.
Do we know why?
No, he wouldn't tell us why.
Is that the same kind of thing going to happen with this latest legislation? I mean, is that down the same pike?
No, because it got a lot of support in Shope's committee. So Shope chose to hear Dunn's bill. He chose not to hear the other bill.
So what's next in all this? Last question. What do we look for here? I mean, did the receivership? How long does it take for that receivership to happen? Should it happen?
The judge could rule on that anytime in the next few weeks, and then it would pretty much just be when they go in there and clean house.
Holy smokes!
So the residents might see a pretty quick turnaround of like better care moving forward.
Yeah, and hopefully not too much disruption in their lives. Caitlin McGlade, Arizona Republic. Again, great job reporting on this. Thank you so much for sharing. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.